Welcome back. All right. One conversation that we have every year, and at some point in time, maybe I'll delve into that in the video, is which conference is stronger, the East or the West? Most people will pick the East, but I think when you look at these four teams in the Central, I think the argument can be made that at the very least, the conferences are equal. I would go that far to say I think both conferences are equally good. And if you look at the Stanley Cup over the last 10 years, honestly, I think the conferences are pretty close. So what we've got on the board here are the top four teams in the Central. Very, very likely these are the four teams that make the playoffs from the Central. Unless something crazy happens, we get five teams from the Pacific. Maybe St. Louis ends up going on a run in the second half, sure. But at this point in time, these are the four teams that it looks like, when you look at points percentage, will end up being the playoff teams in the West. And there's some Stanley Cup pressure, I would say, on three out of the four. The only one that I don't think has any Stanley Cup pressure is Minnesota. Minnesota wasn't expected to be in this position this year, so they're kind of playing with house money. But we'll start at the top of the board, and the Winnipeg Jets are 27-11-1. It's a 705 points percentage. They're 7-2-1 in their last 10. So they won 15 out of their first 16. No NHL teams ever done that. They went through a predictable stretch where they were having trouble winning games, and now they're back to winning games. They did lose their most recent game against Colorado, but that means they're 7-1-1 in their other 9 of their 10 most recent games. So pretty good record. At home, 14-3-1, which is key because they got some home games coming up. Away from home, 13-8. So away from home, they're still pretty good. And their record is excellent. Their goal differential is fantastic at plus 46. So the Winnipeg Jets should be one of the favorites to win the Stanley Cup. I think the fact they've lost in the first round when they've got there is going to cause people to be less likely to put money down on them. But if they can continue to be at the top, people are going to start betting on them. Now, tonight they're at home against Anaheim. Winnable game, yes, but that's a team that beat them not too long ago. But that was in Anaheim, so maybe being in Winnipeg, that could help. Then on Saturday, they're at home against Detroit. Detroit, of course, down near the bottom of the league. So those are back-to-back winnable games. And then on Tuesday, they're at home against Nashville. So these three games here are winnable for Winnipeg, or they're trap games. You can look at it either way, right? So then on the 10th, they're at home against the LA Kings. LA Kings, not an easy team to defeat, whether you're in LA or they're in your barn. The LA Kings are playing very, very well right now. And then still at home, on the 11th, they've got Colorado. So Winnipeg has these three games here, which are highly winnable, and then two tough ones back to back, and then they have Vancouver at home on the 14th. So Canucks going on a road trip through Eastern Canada. They have a game against Montreal during that as well, and then Winnipeg crops up. And so it's not, I wouldn't put it as an easy schedule, but it's a schedule where I would say if they don't win 4 out of these 6, I'd be surprised. The Winnipeg Jets absolutely should be able to win 4, maybe even 5 of their next 6. So I don't see Winnipeg falling anytime soon. And it is a long homestand. We'll see how it all turns out for them. Long homestands can be beneficial. They can also be a bit of an issue because you're at home for that long. It can get kind of, I don't know if it's the repetition or what it is, but I've heard other people say this who have played in the NHL when they're talking about it as announcers and everything. You know, all that discussion back and forth and talking about how it can be tough when you're at home for too long. Same as a road trip that's too long. The variation going from home to away and back again can be good for a team. So second in the division right now is Minnesota. They're 23-11-4, 658 percentage in terms of their points. But their 4-6 record in their last 10 shows there's been some weakness. Now, a lot of this is due to injury. A lot of key players being out at the same time will hurt your ability to win games regularly. Now, at home, they're 10-8-1. Away from home, they're 13-3-3. So they've also been better on the road than at home. Much better on the road, one could argue. Their goal differential is +9, which considering they're 23-11-4, I'm surprised it's not better than +9. But here we are. Now, tonight, they're in Washington. And their first 2 games on this board here are away. They're both tough matchups. On Saturday, they're in Carolina. But they've got a very good away record. So we'll see if that continues to be the case. Washington and Carolina, those will not be easy games, although Carolina's had their struggles lately as well. Then they come back home. They play on Tuesday against St. Louis. Winnable game? Yes. And then they have Colorado on the 9th. So Colorado shows up on the board twice. And we'll get into that when we talk about the Abs, but they can do themselves a bit of a favor and hurt the teams above them. For Minnesota, that's a key game. If they can beat Colorado, and it's a home game, their record not as good at home and all that, but if they can win that game at home against Colorado, that could really get things going for them once again. Then they're in San Jose on the 11th. San Jose's definitely fallen off lately, but the next night they're in Las Vegas. So you have to make sure you're not looking past San Jose and looking at Vegas the next night, or you could actually end up losing both of them. And I say that because that's the definition of trap game. Trap game is that you overlook the team that's lower down on the standings, and the team that's lower down on the standings, since they don't have any pressure, they have a pretty good game, and you end up losing that game. It's a trap. So we'll see if that is the case with the fact that, again, this is back-to-backs. That could be a tricky one right there, that San Jose game. We shall see. But Minnesota, I still think, is in good shape to end up staying above that playoff line. I think they'll still win their share of games, even though this upcoming schedule, not easy. Washington, Carolina, Colorado, and Vegas. 4 out of the 6 teams they have coming up. Not easy opponents by any stretch of the imagination. Then we get to Colorado. They're 23-15. 605 points percentage, 8-2 in their last 10. They won some games against the teams at the bottom of the West or near the bottom of the West, and it just seems to have restored the team's confidence and their ability to take over the game. Also, getting players back from injury has helped. Now at home, Colorado 10-8, away from home 13-7. So similar to the record that Minnesota has, and Colorado, I think, is the only team now left in the NHL without a point from an overtime loss or a shootout loss. And just think, if they had 4 or 5 shootout losses, they'd be ahead, or overtime losses even, they'd be ahead of Minnesota. So just 5 overtime loss points instead of 15 regulation losses. Yep. So that's all it takes. Now their goal differential is a +7. It feels like with Colorado you got 2 pictures. One with Georgiev and Annunen as the goaltending tandem, and now with the Blackwood, Wedgwood, it sounds like a law firm, doesn't it? You know, come into Blackwood, Wedgwood, and Wood. We'll deal with you. You know, Wood you'd have like a Wood logo, and it'd be like a triangle, and you'd have each name. Anyway, whole thing's all thought up in my head for no reason. The Colorado Avalanche tonight are at home against Buffalo. Now, Buffalo's won 3 of their last 4, but they're coming off that loss against Dallas. They didn't look great in that one. Then Colorado's at home to play Montreal on Saturday. Do not overlook the Avs. They've beaten Florida, Tampa Bay, and Vegas. Montreal could be legit. The Avs could really show whether they are or they're not on Saturday. And then they're at home again on Monday. That's against Florida. So their next 3 games, Buffalo's the one that could qualify as a trap game. Montreal could qualify as a trap game as well, I guess, although they're getting close enough to the playoff line that I don't think that should be the case. But yeah, the Florida one should be fun. And then they go on the road for a few here. Chicago on Wednesday. And then on the 9th, they're in Minnesota, as previously mentioned. And on the 11th, they're in Winnipeg. So Colorado, if they can win these 2 here, and even if they lose, let's just give them the loss against Florida. But they win in Chicago. And if they can win in Minnesota against a team that does have its struggles at home, and then if that Winnipeg game goes their way, but even if it doesn't, let's just give them the loss against Florida and a loss against Winnipeg, and let's just say they're both in regulation. They still be 27-17 with the 4 wins and the 2 losses. So yeah, things look pretty good for Colorado. They have a very winnable schedule, I would say, over the next 6, and I don't know that we're not going to be looking back later on in the year and saying, remember when Colorado looked like they might be in trouble for the playoffs? Now they're first in the division. What happened there? Because as crazy as it might sound to talk about first in the division, it does feel like they could be headed in that direction. I would not be overly surprised, especially if they keep winning 8 out of every 10 games. Then you get to Dallas. And Dallas, I did the video on Dallas last week. They're 22-13-1, 625 points percentage. So their points percentage is still good. They're 6-3-1 in their last 10. That's still good as well. So this is where Minnesota's in kind of trouble, because both Dallas and Colorado are catching up. This is 13 points in their last 10 games, whereas Minnesota has 8. 16 points in the last 10 games for Colorado. Now on the Dallas side, at home, they're 14-5-1. Very good at home. On the road, 8-8. So they're 500 on the road. They're not as good as they are at home. Their goal differential is an encouraging plus 25. So if you are one of the ones who believes goal differential is a big indicator, Dallas could very well be the second best team in this division. But it depends on the game. And tonight they're at home against Ottawa, a game that I don't know if they're going to win this. And I say that because Ottawa's been playing well for the most part lately. There are some goaltending concerns, of course, in Ottawa without Ullmark and without Forsberg, but they're still a pretty good team. Then they're at home on Saturday against Utah. Utah has given Dallas some trouble. They've matched up, I think, twice so far this year. Utah's not an easy team to defeat, even though recently they've had their struggles. Then they go on the road to New York to play the Rangers on Tuesday. The way the Rangers have been playing lately, that's a winnable game, although the road record for Dallas is just at 500. And then they're in Philadelphia on the 9th. Philadelphia is going to give them everything they can handle. Although I think Philadelphia is one of those ones who's been better on the road than at home as well. Then they're in Montreal on the 11th. So winnable game, sure, but Montreal lately has been better than what they were earlier. And then the next night, they're in Ottawa. So they have 2 games of their next 6 against the Ottawa Senators. It is not an easy schedule for the Dallas Stars. I look at this and I think, yeah, Rangers, they can probably win that one because the Rangers have been beating themselves as much as anything else lately. But Ottawa's tough. I don't know if they win both of those against Ottawa. Their recent track record tells you they've been playing pretty well, but I don't know. These 4 away games in a row, it's going to be a bit of a tough road trip, and they do have their struggles here and there on the road. So, of the 4 teams on the board, I kind of feel like the Avs are the one to keep an eye on in the second half of the season. The Winnipeg Jets, maybe. The Jets have a lot of games at home coming up, and so we'll see how many points they get out of that. But yeah, Minnesota is in tough. Well, they've got some big names out, including Kaprizov. And for Dallas, it's just finding that consistency from night to night. It is a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. It is important to have that consistent effort and that consistent result. And we haven't seen that as much as we might like from Dallas. But hey, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I apologize for the board moving around, but that's Bears decided now's a really good time to play, so she kept hitting the board, so I had to stop her from banging into it again, and then I banged my foot into it. So there you go. But thank you guys so much for watching. It's all part of doing videos in one take. It's going to happen. But hey, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. And just let me know which of these 4 teams would you be most scared of in a playoff series right now, as well as which of the 4 do you think could actually end up dropping in the second half and maybe missing the playoffs. Maybe St. Louis makes a run. Maybe we end up with no wild card from the Central. Just go crazy. Let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. I'm very, very happy that the channel passed 335,000 subscribers over the last couple of days. This is usually a time of year where the numbers are really down on YouTube in general, and they haven't been. So thank you guys so much for that, and I will talk to you again soon.